Let's look at creating a JSP page and running it in a web application. Now, unlike servlets, deploying JSP pages is as easy as deploying static pages. JSP pages can be placed in the same directory hierarchy as HTML pages. In the development environment, JSP pages are placed in the web directory. In the deployment environment, JSP pages are placed in the top level directory of the web application. To create a JSP and run it, you need to configure the server, create a dynamic web project, create JSP files in the web content folder, and create relevant HTML files as well. Let's look at working with JSP elements. JSP elements is a JSP in a JSP page can be expressed in two types of syntaxes, standard and XML. Here you see the standard syntax for a comment and the XML syntax. Both of them are legal. A declaration syntax can be done in either of these ways. Directives for including @page and tag library, which is used for custom tags, can be written either in this or in this manner. Expressions for evaluation can be written either in this manner, and scriptlets with code that needs to be executed in server side would be written like this. The JSP comment is used when you are creating a JSP page and want to put comments about what you are doing. JSP comments are only seen in the JSP page. These comments are not included in Servlet source code during translation phase. They do not appear in the HTTP response. The declaration tag, we can declare a variable or method in JSP inside the declaration tag. The declaration is made inside the servlet class but outside the service. We can declare static member, instance variable, and method inside declaration tag. Then comes the directive tag, which is used for special instruction to web container. It includes three tags: page, which defines page dependent properties such as language, session error page; taglib, which declares tag library used in the page; and include, which defines the files to be included in the page. The page defines page dependent properties such as language, session error page. It defines a number of page dependent properties that communicate with the web container. We can use the following attributes: import, language, extends, session, error page, content type, buffer. The tag library declares the tag library that is used in the page. JSP allows you to define custom JSP tags that look like HTML or XML tags. A tag library is a set of user-defined tags that implements custom behavior. A tag library directive is used to define the tag library that the current JSP page uses. A JSP page might include several tag libraries. The include defines the file to be included in the source code. It has an attribute for file. The expressions are evaluated when a JSP page is requested. The results are converted into string and fed to the print method of the implicit object. If the result cannot be converted into string, an error will be raised at translation time. If this is not detected at translation time, a class cast exception will be raised at request processing time. The scriptlet tags allow you to write Java code inside JSP page. The scriptlet tag implements JSP servlet method functionality by writing script or Java code. Everything written inside the scriptlet tag is compiled as Java code. Caution: when to use declaration tag over scriptlet tag? If you want to include any method in your JSP file, use declaration tag. During translation phase of JSP, methods and variables inside the declaration tag become instance methods and instance variables and are also assigned default values. Anything we add in a scriptlet tag goes inside the JSP service method. We cannot add any function inside the scriptlet tag as it creates a function inside the service method during compilation, which is not allowed in a Java method. Let's look at a demo of JSP tags and implicit objects. To summarize what we did, we covered concepts which said JSP will be converted to servlets internally. A .jsp is converted to a .java file and then ultimately a .class file. The first phase of a JSP lifecycle is the translation phase, where the JSP is converted into a .java file. Then comes the JSP init, the service, and the service method. The JSP service method is the most frequently used method that we will use in our demo. We will look at writing JSP tags in this demo and look at the 9 intrinsic objects. Servlets are good for business logic and not presentation. JSP does much better there in terms of the view in the model view controller. Servlets do better acting as a controller. Servlets play the role of a controller and JSP hence plays the role of a view. Let's start with creating a new project. We'll call it JSP demos. We'll go to the web content, and here we'll create a new JSP. We'll name it as index.jsp. Let's add some code. Hello from HTML. And we'll say h1 hello from JSP. And we'll save this. So you see the scriptlet tags here, which will actually get executed on server side. We'll execute this. And moment it executes, we see the hello from HTML, and this is the hello from JSP that we wrote in the scriptlet. Let's add another. We'll define a variable int x equal to 10 and try to retrieve it in the HTML. So here we'll say input type equal to text, value equal to, and we'll give an expression here equal to x. We don't have to restart the server each time. We can save and refresh the servlet, and there you see the value bound to the text box. Let's say that we want to create a simple loop. Let me again open a scriptlet. We'll write a simple for loop which says integer I equal to 0, I less than 5, and I plus plus. Out dot print, and let's print the value of I equals plus I, and we'll put a break. Let's also add a break after this line. Let's refresh our page, and you see the for loop getting executed in the JSP page. Let's click on the web content, and this time we will add a HTML file. Let's call it footer.html. We'll delete the existing code and just add a div tag with an align equal to center. simple text I am a footer and save it. Now we want to include this file inside our JSP, so we'll do that with a simple include which says %include file equal to footer.html, and when we refresh our JSP, you should see the HTML file included as part of the JSP output. Now the include directive performs the job of the request dispatcher similar to that, so it amalgamates the response even though the URL is index.jsp. It collaborates the responses of both the files and puts it into one single output. So there are three types of directives we can use: @include, @taglib, which is used for custom tags, and @page, which can also be used to import resources. Let's try printing the date. So we will say the current date is % equal to new date %. Let's import the package. So I'm going to select date here, and that will automatically import the package with @page import, and that shows you the usage of the @page include. So let us refresh the page and you see the current date. Let's go back. We had an additional bracket here, so let me copy this and paste it above the footer with some PR tags, and we refresh and we look at the output of the current date. If we need to add a comment is added like this. Now this obviously will not be printed onto the output because it is the comment. So we have a set of 9 intrinsic objects available. First is out, which is part of JSP writer scope. We have the application object available in JSP, which is of Servlet context scope. We have the config object, which is of Servlet config scope. We have page, which is of base object. We have page context, which is of page context scope. We have exception, which belongs to throwable. We have request, which belongs to HTTP servlet request, and finally response, which belongs to HTTP servlet response. So the page context is actually used for adding, modifying, removing attributes from any of the 4 scopes. Now in servlets we had 3 scopes: application, session and request. In JSP we have 4 scopes: application, session, request and page. So the page scope is accessible throughout the page at page level, and the response is used to redirect to or send data to the user or the page. Let us try to use some of the above objects. So here we'll create a form and say action equal to null, enter name, input type equal to text, name equal to fname. And we'll have input type equal to submit, name equal to click, value equal to click me. Now let's add a scriptlet. Here we'll say that if request dot get parameter click, so click stands for the button. Now this will indicate whether the button has been clicked or not. So we'll check if the button has been clicked, then this should not be equal to null. So if the user has hit the submit button, we will say out dot print hello plus, and we use the request object here, request dot get parameter fname. So we are just trying to retrieve the first name value from the text box and display it to the user on the screen. So let's refresh. So we enter the name, and that's the name that gets displayed. So it works. So with that, we have seen how to create a JSP page, host it, use some of the intrinsic objects within the JSP page, and also include HTML pages within the JSP page.